Hey, it's Chuck. Rankings, and boy, how the mighty have fallen. The national champion, three-time defending Big Ten champion after 2 games into the season, sitting at number 6 in the Juck on Bucks power rankings. Horrible. Let's get it. And I don't think he's going to throw the ball as much as he thinks he's going to throw the ball now that Chip Kelly's on board. And I'm happy about that. More quarterback. The truth is Ryan Day has made a change philosophically, but it's none of those. You all know who wins. LSU is the drunkest fan base in the country. And welcome into Juck on Bucks on a Tuesday morning. Thanks so much for joining me. Appreciate you guys so much. Hope you're having a good one. Yesterday, we got into the Buckeyes offense in the Western Michigan game. Almost a flawless performance. It was fantastic, but I don't think it was as good as the defensive performance. And there's just not even really a whole lot to talk about with the defense, but I do got a couple of points I want to go over. It was so darn close to perfect. 99 total yards for Western Michigan, 28 total yards rushing, which is just insane. I don't care who you're playing. That's crazy. These are all dudes on scholarship, right? 0.9 yards per rushing attempt, less than a yard. Western Michigan went 3 and out in 10 of their 13 drives. The defense did not get many plays. They just didn't get a chance to run that many plays on that Western Michigan offense. Through 2 games, the defense is allowing an average now of 37.5 rushing yards, 1.14 yards an attempt. They've got 8 sacks. Last year, through 2 games, they had 3 sacks. That was a point of emphasis. The sacks, the turnovers, both up. The secondary held that Western Michigan quarterback to 8 of 15 for 78 yards. In that secondary, not a ton of action. Jermaine Matthews got an opportunity to play 25 snaps, which is great. Nice to see him get out and get so many reps. That, of course, was due to Denzel's ejection. More on that in a bit. But excellent for him. Freshman Aaron Scott got to play about 10 plays. So did Malik Hartford and Jalen McClain. Good for them to get some reps. And pretty much everyone in the secondary got to play quite a bit, except for South Carolina transfer Keenan Nelson. I don't believe he played against Akron either. I don't know what the situation is with him. I don't think we're going to see him much at all this year based on those 2 games. But nice that those young guys got to be part of the shutout, the first under Jim Knowles. We got to see Caleb Downs really flash in some of his excellent plays for the first time. Didn't really see him a ton in the Akron game. He is so fast at diagnosing plays, getting downhill, and taking out the ball carrier, and he doesn't put himself in harm's way ever. He makes these really smart tackles. He's not a very big guy. He makes these really smart tackles, takes them out underneath the knee, and it's just so fast and smooth. He's a really unique player. I really think we're going to enjoy watching him play, and I can't wait to see him make some big plays against some big-time teams because you know he's going to. The top 5 defenders for the day with a minimum of 10 snaps via PFF were number 1, Cody Simon in his first game back, number 2, Jack Sawyer, number 3, Ty Hamilton, who played a great game. Number 4, Caden McDonald, backing up another performance at Akron with a good one again. And number 5, Mitchell Melton. A bonus 6 was Arvell Reese. And as for those linebackers, Cody gets the start coming back from his phantom injury, which we're now hearing might have been a hamstring, just like Donovan Jackson. And apparently they wanted him to maybe take another week off. Cody was having none of it. He comes in, immediately gets a sack, fired up, brought the juice. Cody ended up playing 31 snaps. And you talk about a guy who has a personality shift from off the field to on the field. So shy and mild-mannered off the field. Gets on the field, he's a madman, and I just love it. I think he might be my favorite Buckeye on the team this year. He just might be. And that's really grown quickly. You know, from this offseason, he's not a guy I thought much about for most of his career. But it's just kind of from this offseason, watching how this guy gets down and how he goes about his business. I just love it. The way everybody respects him, winning the Block O captain, like everything about him is just awesome. Sonny got to play 39 snaps and he got to play at will, his normal position. He was at Mike last week and that's great for him. He played pretty good. Arvell Reese, we thought was probably during the post-game show after the Akron game. The question was, is Arvell Reese going to be the 3rd linebacker in, assuming Cody comes back and Cody plays with Sonny? Is it going to be Arvell or is it going to be CJ? And if James Laurinaitis was doing what he said he was going to do, which is rewarding people for good play with more snaps the next game, then it was going to be Arvell. And sure enough, it was. Arvell jumped CJ Hicks this week. And in the first snaps he got, it was a 3 linebacker package. Early on, they took Jordan Hancock off the field, 3 linebackers, and it was Cody, Arvell in the middle, and then Sonny. When Cody ended up coming off the field later on, it was Arvell who was the first in. So James doing exactly what he said he was going to do, and Arvell played darn good. Arvell Reese is he's a real revelation here. And it's interesting because we went into spring camp not 100% sure if Sonny was even going to move down to linebacker. And at the time, it was Cody Simon and CJ Hicks as the presumptive starters, though we all figured Sonny was going to move down. And then they make the announcement, Sonny moves down, and then we're thinking, okay, it's Sonny and CJ battling for that spot at will. Many people were irritated that Cody felt like he was kind of gifted that spot at Mike, or he didn't have to fight for it like everybody else, but he was going to be the Mike no matter what. I think we now know just how respected Cody is in that building and how talented they think he is as well. And it kind of all makes more sense now at this point, more so than it did back then. But a whole lot of people, when Sonny and CJ came in together in that same class, we're looking forward to, at some point, watching those two play side by side at linebacker together. Sonny came in as a safety, but we always thought he was going to eventually be a linebacker. He's just too big. So those two battling for that spot at will, it irritated a lot of people, right? And the thought was that CJ Hicks, like has happened so many times under Ryan Day, was another guy that was crazy talented and wasn't getting playing time because this regime under Ryan Day has been very, the deference towards seniority, towards guys that have been there, has just been really, really strong. And the younger guys haven't really gotten their chance as early as a lot of people felt they should have. We're seeing that that's changing this year. They've talked about, they basically told us that, in the kind of the philosophy's changing a bit on that. And we're seeing it right out of the gate. And that's really cool. I think it's a really welcome change. But the thought was that that's what was going on with CJ. And I think that the more we see CJ, the more that we see the same kind of mistakes being made in his third year, mistakes that, quite honestly, Arvell Reese, who was playing, he was in Larry's room last year. He's not making them right off the rip. I mean, he's playing really good. CJ's not playing up to his level. CJ's playing poor. In 2 games this year, CJ is the dead last rated defender on the Ohio State defense. And for a guy that's so incredibly talented, it's frustrating. You know, you wish he could put it all together because he is so gifted. But it seems like he's just kind of out of position. I don't know what else to say at this point. And Arvell Reese looks like a natural. It looks like you really lucked into a natural. And the other night I was thinking, it's so hard for us sometimes to turn the page on what we think a 5-star is going to be when he comes in. CJ Hicks was the number 1 or 2 linebacker in the country, depending on where you look coming in. And you win a recruiting battle and it's a 5-star, and you kind of pencil him in your head and think about his future. And in my mind, at least anyway, it's like, all right, that position is going to be on lockdown in a couple years when he comes of age, if not sooner. And that's not always the case. And I feel like if it's maybe a mid-ranked 4-star, we are pretty quick to turn the page. Okay, shrug, it didn't work. It happens. On to the next guy. We don't do that with 5-stars. And I think that's why there's been so much extra conversation about CJ Hicks. That and the fact that he is such a tremendous pass rusher. But how do you use him? I don't know. I mean, obviously he's perfect for the jack, but Jim Knowles doesn't want to use the jack. He said earlier this year, maybe just about, I think it was maybe the first week of preseason camp, he doesn't want to use the jack. In fact, I'll go the other way before I'll do that, bringing in 5 defensive linemen. And I've had some people say to me, well, obviously Jim Knowles is brilliant. He can certainly find a way to use him. And yes, he absolutely can. But does he want to go out of his way to make some package for CJ when everything's going really good with what they're doing now? I don't know. So at this point, he just kind of feels like the odd man out, to be honest, which sucks. And, it sucks for him, but I don't know if we're ever going to see CJ Hicks as that starting excellent will linebacker like we had envisioned. And it just kind of made me think of Mike DeAndrea coming in as the superstar linebacker with AJ Hawk, who was the 3-star nobody, which I don't want to say Arvell Reese was the 3-star nobody. He was, decently ranked guy, but nobody expected him to come in and outplay CJ Hicks at linebacker. And that's what he's doing. So that's a great revelation. These things have a way to usually end up working themselves out at a place like Ohio State. Let's talk about another 5-star, Jack Sawyer. Jack Sawyer, who was a guy that, again, many people have felt like he's been a real letdown. And the only fault of this, Jack, I get it. Coming after Nick and Joey Bosa and Chase Young, and Jack Sawyer comes in ranked like that, as was JT, top 5 guys in the country, both of them. The expectations were that Jack was the third Bosa brother, and he's just different. He's not the same type of player, and he never has lived up to that billing. No fault of his own, but I feel like a lot of people kind of turned on him a bit or thought he sucks or he's a bust because he's not that. Well, that is amazing, right? And to have that run of guys, that was amazing. All of a sudden, Jack is he's more explosive. His body looks better. And this is now, counting this game, 8 games in a row that he has played tremendous. Against Western Michigan, he had 6 pressures. I think the next guy had 2. 3 quarterback hits, 2 hurries. Finally got that sack he should have gotten at Akron. He just looks faster, stronger, more explosive, more athletic. His moves look great. I think he's going to play himself into the first round this year. I absolutely do. He was projected, if he had come out as, mid-second round guy, maybe late second round. But I absolutely think he's going to play himself in the first round. He just looks tremendous. I don't know how they're going to stop him. I can't wait to see some better competition and see what he does with some of these guys. But he's looking great. Ty Hamilton, a great performance, an unsung hero. Ty gets a sack, and he got the silver bullet of the game as well from Jim Knowles. This is one of the guys that, it's so much like his brother, which is weird. You would think that we would have given this guy maybe a little more credit based on how his brother came in, a lower rated guy who worked himself up and turned into be kind of a fan favorite. And then he comes in and it's kind of the same track. And now here he is, and he doesn't get much talk. Granted, there's a whole lot of stars on this defense, but I think we're going to see him kind of emerge as have you seen, I got to pull up a picture of his arms. This guy is just enormous now, but an absolute stud. So really love seeing that. Tyleek with another dominant performance and a sack. Caden McDonald, another great game. 3 tackles in just 14 snaps. Obviously, a top 5 defender on the team. He's going to be a big-time contributor this year. And having him coming off the bench, that's just great. Other guys inside that got some run. Hero with 9 snaps. Jason Moore with 7. And Tywone Malone with 4. The defensive ends, Jack had 31 snaps. JT had 30. Kenyatta had 22. Caden Curry and Mitchell Melton, 16 and 15. Edric, 11. Josh Mickens, 8. And this is the second week in a row that Kenyatta has gotten more snaps than both Caden Curry and Mitchell Melton. So it looks like he is the 3-man up there in that defensive end rotation, which is pretty interesting. I didn't see that coming. Based on the way they were talking about things, but certainly a welcome change. Kenyatta is obviously you couldn't draw it up any more perfect. Like, this is what I want for an edge rusher. It's Kenyatta Jackson. And if he can get it down, look out, man. And he so far is playing really good. So that'll close the book for week 2. And we got a bye week coming up Saturday. And you come out of that bye week, we got Marshall and that's going to be Fox's Big Noon Kickoff, which really says something about the power of the Buckeye brand and what they are this year, which is absolute rock stars. Everybody wants to see this team. They're playing Marshall on a nationally televised game. That's something. I don't think it's a good slate, but that's something. Marshall just 1-1, by the way. Lost 31-14 to Virginia Tech last week. They also got a bye this week. After Marshall, the Big Ten slate starts with Michigan State, who just beat Maryland. And I watched that game because I wanted to see Aiden Childs, their quarterback. You want to talk about a talented dude. I mean, he makes some bad throws. I think he had 3 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. So some poor mistakes, but arm talent galore. I mean, he's got a cannon, and he's pretty fun to watch. So that'll be a fun one for us, I think. And Michigan State playing much better than I think anybody expected so far right out of the gate. So they've talked about Jonathan Smith being a heck of a coach. I think he really is. But after Michigan State, you go Iowa, Oregon, Nebraska, Penn State. So a pretty tough little 4-game stretch right there. And that's going to be a pretty exciting time to kind of gauge where this football team is, how they stack up. That game against Oregon obviously doesn't look quite as difficult as it did now, or as it did in the offseason. But, you know, part of me feels like they could flip a switch and really start gelling. And then all of a sudden they are that team that a lot of people thought they were going to be in the offseason. Do you remember the hit that the Colorado State player laid on Travis Hunter last year when Colorado State was playing Colorado? By the way, that game coming up this Sunday. You had Jay Norvell, Colorado State's head coach, talking trash about Deion last year. That game was really close. I think it might have gone into overtime. And Colorado ended up winning. Well, in that game, Travis Hunter got knocked out of the game in a really vicious, dirty hit by a Colorado State player. He ended up missing 4 or 5 weeks. And you look at a hit like that, and then the hit that Georgia player laid out on Marv, and those decisions that those defenders made were to try to separate the receiver from the ball. And it's something we used to see all the time, and we used to celebrate it. We used to get up and cheer about it. It was awesome. It was great. And in hindsight, that was not too cool of us. Those guys, they're totally defenseless. And it's kind of just a cowardly act to absolutely unload on somebody like that when they're not looking. There's nothing makes you tough about that. I've done it, but nothing makes you tough about that. But the targeting rules come around. And for the most part, they've eliminated this. We used to see that Saturday and Sunday every weekend. We'd see somebody get popped like that, totally laid out. It's pretty rare now. So in that aspect, the targeting rules have done their job. We've also seen guys make conscious efforts and coaches make conscious efforts to teach kids. And we've now, the rule's been in place long enough that we're now seeing kids who were in peewees now in the college ranks who know how to make tackles and try to, make a conscious effort to keep their head out of the hit. There's not a lot of launching with your body, leading with your head, see what you hit. I mean, they've been teaching that since the mid 90s, but it's not a natural move for everybody. It's just, but you see the most catastrophic spinal cord injuries when the defender leads with the crown of his helmet in a straight line down through his spine. So if you just straight line down, no good. Head up, see what you hit. And we're seeing more of that. So it's great. And the targeting rule has done a lot of good as far as all that stuff goes. However, there are times when you are a defender and you are committed to making a tackle and the offensive player is committed to dipping his head down, you've already committed to your tackle before that happens. And you click hats, man. You just click hats and it happens. And they're still throwing guys out of games for this. And that's what we saw with Denzel Burke on Saturday. And it just drives me insane. And what makes me so irritated about it is what I just said. There's nothing unique about that perspective. I feel like everybody feels this way. I feel like I've heard many, many respected people in college football say the same thing and say Why are we throwing people out for this? If you want to call a penalty, I disagree, but okay, call the penalty. But I am perfectly fine with letting a referee or somebody in the booth making a judgment call on a play like the Colorado State hit on Travis Hunter or that hit against Marv, on who is coming in with malicious intent in any play where you are just like your sole purpose is not to tackle, not to deflect the ball, but to hit the guy so hard that he cannot catch the ball. When you're trying to do that, or when you just know when someone is trying to hurt the guy. You can see it. You see him load up for it. It's plain as day. It's not what Denzel Burke did, and you can see the difference. Anybody can. My wife could, not knowing any of the rules. Why are we so they're hesitant to give them a judgment call, right? Obviously, you want nothing to be a judgment call. You want concrete black and white. But every call in football is a judgment call. Every single one. What you call holding, I may not. I would call it more, but I would only make it 5 yards. But that's a different story for a different day. My point is, there's not a single person who agrees with the way this is implemented. I don't ever hear them. And the College Football Rules Committee meets every year, and they come up with new rules or they eliminate some rules. This year, they got us the 2-minute warning. Made sure that we don't call it the 2-minute warning. No, they want it called the 2-minute timeout. They bring on the technology. They change stuff all the time. The hip drop tackle. Why are they still throwing kids out of games? Luke Fickell in Wisconsin take on Alabama this Saturday. The biggest game they've had in Camp Randall in who knows how long, maybe ever. It would be if Wisconsin was a little better. And I was really hoping they would be. This was a game I was really looking forward to. Wisconsin just, they may get better later on in the season when they start to gel, but they're nowhere near yet with Phil Longo and their new offense. It's just not even close. And Luke still has a ways to go when it comes to talent, but one of the talented players he has is Jake Chaney. Jake Chaney's a really good linebacker. Jake Chaney will be sitting for the first half of the game against Alabama because of a targeting call. Only Jake Chaney didn't get a targeting call in the conventional way. Have a look-see at the call that got Jake Chaney ejected from the game. So he did lead with the crown of his helmet, and he put it right in the midsection of the receiver there. And, technically by the rule, it's not just a helmet to helmet. It's leading with the crown of your helmet. You could call that a targeting, though I very rarely see that called. And it kind of is just like what I've been saying for a long time. And what I dislike about this rule is every time there's a big collision where we used to cheer, we are now immediately like, look for the flag, look for the flag, look for the flag. And I don't like to watch football like that, but that's what it is. And you see a big collision, they throw a flag. All right, so they throw the flag. He hit him in the midsection. It was a hard hit. There's no doubt about it. Chaney's he's a bad dude, right? It was a hard hit. So he gets ejected. Now he's out for the first half, putting Wisconsin at a big disadvantage. Luke weighed in. Let's hear what Luke had to say.
They had a guy thrown out of the game, and I just still think we're wrong in college football. And I'll look everybody in the face and I'll like, we're wrong in college football to throw kids out of games. I mean, their kid gets thrown out of the game. Last week, the kid got thrown out of the game. This week, I mean, I'm not just saying that because Jake Chaney got thrown out of the game. Like at some point in time, we try to adopt all these things that the NFL does, but yet we throw out kids that get 12 guaranteed games to us, to things that aren't malicious. I'm not saying that taking the head out of the game is not what we need to do. We'll penalize us and things like that. But to throw kids out of a game, I think it's the wrong thing. I've said that for a couple years. They don't listen, so they continue to hold to their roles. But it's unfortunate. It's a bang bang kind of play. To tell you the truth, I did not even see it. I guess it's his head in the stomach, And that's probably the first time I've ever seen a guy thrown out of the game for hitting a guy in the stomach with his helmet. But to the letter of the law, I'm sure it is what it is.
Couldn't agree more with Luke. And you need more coaches like him speaking out. They get things done when they speak out. So kudos to him for speaking out about that. Hey, I got to show you something. My sponsor, Columbus Apparel Co., great company to work with, fantastic folks. They specialize in screen printing. If you own a business, if you got a family reunion coming up, whatever it is, you might need some shirts printed. Check out ColumbusApparelCo.com. They got a full line of Ohio and Columbus merchandise for you to check out, as well as some sweet Juck on Bucks merchandise. And I got a picture sent to me today from our guy, Terry Zorns. He's my buddy. And he is wanted to show off his new shirt that he got for being a member on the Juck on Bucks YouTube page, which I appreciate all of those members so much. So thank you, Terry, for sending us that picture. Now, I did a contest for the game, Michigan and Texas. Guess the score. Whoever was closest was going to win one of those fancy shirts. And our guy, Cody Holsinger, won. Look at that score, 32-13. He was 1 point off each way. So congratulations to Cody. He is the winner. Cody, email me at juckonbucks@gmail.com. You guys can email me as well. We can talk about whatever you like. So good job, Cody. Hey, let's have a new contest. What should we do? Let me think about it. All right, we got it. On Friday, in a Big 12 matchup, the Arizona Wildcats travel into the Little Apple to take on the Kansas State Wildcats. I always like watching games from the Little Apple. I think it's a cool little venue. And we get to see Avery Johnson. We get to see Noah Fafito. We get to see T-Mac. I can't say his first name. That's the Arizona receiver who is just insanely talented. And Arizona, a 7-point favorite. So whoever gets that score, closest to that score, is going to win their shirt like Terry's got. And you can get yours or any of the Juck on Bucks merchandise while you're down there, as well as the Johnny Hockey shirt. 100% of those proceeds from Columbus Co. and the artillery go to the Johnny Hockey's brother. His wife is pregnant, and their son Trip. All that money goes to them. So for a great cause. Now, heading into the season, my Big Ten power rankings, the Buckeyes were number 1, and Oregon was number 2. But it was a pretty slim margin between the two of them. And then after them, I had a gap. Now I think the Buckeyes stand alone after 2 weeks into the season, and there's a whole lot of shuffling underneath them. But despite the competition not being great, Ohio State has looked near flawless in 7 straight quarters of play. Outside the first quarter of game 1, they've looked really, really good. I don't think anybody would want any part of them right now because they're all still building and gelling, and the Buckeyes look like they are clicking on all cylinders right out of the gate, which is amazing to say after the way it kind of felt after the first half of game 1. But looking back, that second half paired with the game the other night, fantastic. So Buckeyes, the clear number 1. Who do you put at number 2? Penn State, USC, both have had one quality opponent. Penn State played West Virginia in game 1. They looked really, really good against West Virginia. Then they come out against Bowling Green, a bit of a stinker. Bowling Green was really close with them all the way into the fourth quarter. They end up winning by 7. USC comes out and beats LSU, which at the time looked like a really good win. I'm not so sure. That might have been a little bit of fool's gold, as LSU just came out and was in a game through the first half with Nicholls State. Nicholls State put up 300 yards of offense on LSU, and the Nicholls State offensive line was manhandling the LSU defensive front. Yeah, seriously. So USC goes out and beats them. We thought it was a great win. I'm just not so sure. Then they shut out Utah State 48-0. Utah State, remember, we talked about 2 weeks before the season, fired their head coach and a couple of staffers because he was looking into one of the players' domestic violence arrests or allegations, when he wasn't supposed to. He's supposed to turn it in immediately. He went and looked into it to try to determine how severe the punishment would be. He wasn't allowed to do that. They fired him, and the program's in absolute shambles. So how much do you take away from that shutout of a team that just lost their head coach 2 weeks before the season? I don't know, but it's clear that Dan Tonlin, USC's new defensive coordinator, who came over from UCLA, has done a great job, hired some really nice staffers to go with that defense, to go with him, and they're doing better. They're kind of plugging the hole like Jim Knowles did year one at Ohio State. So USC looking really good. Keeping Miller Moss seems to have definitely been the right move. They were considering a portal quarterback. They went with Miller. He's looking really good. So SC, if I was going to put them against Penn State in a game this week, who would I pick? Who would I put my $5 on? I'm going to say SC. I think Oregon is a clear notch below those two at this point. So I've got Ohio State, USC, Penn State, and Oregon. But I will say that Oregon, despite they never should have been that close with Idaho. But that game against that Boise State team, we were kind of led to believe this wasn't going to be your classic, really good Boise State team. After watching that game, and I watched the whole game, that was a doggone good team. They really were. So, I don't know how bad that one really was. I mean, I guess it was kind of bad that they did need 2 special teams touchdowns to win. But really good team. And man, that running back is the real deal. That's not, did I show you guys that picture of him? I gotta find this picture of this dude, that Ashton Genty. Wow. He's legit, dude. That's an NFL running back for sure. But I'm going to go Ohio State, USC, Penn State, Oregon. And number 5, you could go a lot of different ways, but I'm going to go with Nebraska. I think that Nebraska has a lot of pieces in place they already had. And when you added in Dylan Raiola and you added in that receiver from Texas, that transfer, they're pretty dynamic. They've also got some really good running backs, and they were running hard. This is a team that looks to be gelling. This is a team that looks to have it has some mojo about them. And they looked really good on Saturday night. Not that anybody wouldn't look good in that kind of environment, bringing in that team in Colorado that is just, they want to sit there at the end of the game and blame the offensive line. It's kind of what happens when you don't use your superpower. Could you imagine if Deion used his superpower, which is recruiting, and in year 1 stockpiled offensive linemen? Because he could have done it. They would now be in year 2 in their development. And next year, they'd be looking like they had some potential to be a really good team. Well, he didn't. Got a bunch of transfers in, wiped them out, got a bunch of new transfers in, and Jordan Seaton. So you got one, but he refuses to do it. And then he wants to sit and whine about the offensive line. Shadeur wants to sit at the end of the game and whine about the offensive line. How many times did Raiola get hit? Kid also walked. I didn't even know this that night, but he walked off the field with 2 minutes left. And this is what Deion had to say.
Shadeur Sanders obviously left the field with 2 minutes left in the game. Is he physically and mentally okay right now?
Yeah, I just talked to him. He looked pretty darn good to me. We just wanted to make sure we get him checked out, and we would have every precaution, because now you're looking forward to next week. This week was over. By the time he got out of the game, it was a wrap. So we wanted to make sure he's going to be okay. So we wanted to get him checked out.
It was certainly a wrap. It was a wrap at halftime. It was 28-0. But that's a nonsense answer. And I just challenge anybody who supports them to tell me that's not a nonsense answer. The dude walked off the field. He wasn't going to get checked out. He walked off the field with 2 minutes left. I don't know how you can support that. That's a joke. That's a clown show, man. Anyway, Michigan, number 6 in my rankings. And boy, how the mighty have fallen. The national champion, 3-time defending Big Ten champion after 2 games into the season, sitting at number 6 in the Juck on Bucks power rankings. Horrible. Late last week, a report came out. Somebody sent a FOIA request into Ohio State to get the basically performance reviews from the staff. So you got Ryan Days, Mark Pantoni's, Mickey Maratti's, all the coaches, all these performance reviews. And the new coaches on the staff, Matt Guerrieri, Carlos Loughlin, Chip Kelly, James Laurinaitis, after their performance reviews, their little, synopsis was, meets expectations. All the coaches who were previously on staff, Larry Johnson, Keenan Bailey, Brian Hartline, Tim Walton, Jim Knowles, they were marked exceeds expectations. There was just one coach on the staff who was not a new hire that did not receive exceeds expectations, and that's Justin Fry. Justin Fry was meets expectations. Now, there's a section in these performance reviews where they each have to kind of give a self-evaluation, write down their goals, and Fry listed as his performance goals: beat Teton and win the national championship. And number 2, develop the best unit as offensive linemen on and off the field. His professional development goal was to continue to visit and talk the development of offensive line with experts in the industry in both college and the NFL. In his year-end self-review, keep in mind, these are supposed to be reviews, not goals. His review was, finished another year with a good academic report and no major issues in the offensive line. Okay, fair enough. That's a review. Number 2, transitioned 3 new starters into the unit and progressively got better throughout the year. Okay, next. I need to continually adapt and adjust to the new recruiting way of college football. That's not a review. That's a goal. But obviously what he's really saying is, yes, boss, I'm aware my recruiting is not up to snuff, and so are we. And finally, I plan on building this room and team back to a championship level this season. All right, so Ryan Day did his performance review. Here's where he comes in. This is his year-end manager review, which again, this is supposed to be a review, and these are 3 goals that he writes. It's no wonder these guys are in football. Performance review, number 1, build the offensive line to a championship level, physical, tough, and dependable. Number 2, recruit and sign the best offensive line class in the nation. And number 3, enhance the run game plan and creativity. All right, how about Ryan Day's review? Reviewed by Gene Smith. Ryan Day's own performance goal, number 1. On the field, beat the team up north, win the Big Ten championship, make it to the college football playoffs, and win the national championship. Off the field, 3.0 grade point average, top 5 recruiting class in the country. Professional development goals: become an expert in end-of-the-game management with the new 2-minute warning rule change. Note, he said 2-minute warning, not me. Research and study the best practices for the upcoming playoff postseason with the potential for 16 games. Training, roster management, and depth. And number 3, constantly in search of the best NIL practices at other universities and teams. Under his personal list of accomplishments, he lists top 5 recruiting class for the 5th straight year per 247. All right, so coach uses 247, just like we do here at Chuck on Bucks. I don't know if he's talking about their internal ratings or the composite. We use the composite here. I'll have to get some clarification on him from that. Number 2, added 6 impact players in the transfer portal in the winter. Those names were redacted in the report. I'm assuming he left out Keenan Nelson. Number 3, number 2 ranked defense in the country in total scoring, and 2 top 10 wins with an 11-2 record. His personal strengths he lists as communication, emotional intelligence, football IQ, competitiveness, organization, and integrity. His opportunities for improvement: delegating responsibilities better, and he's certainly doing that. Holding coaches accountable for production and performance of their units at the highest level. I think that one says a lot. So, holding coaches accountable, writes that in his own review on the same day that Justin Fry, the offensive line coach, is the only coach on the staff that gets meets expectations instead of exceeds expectations. And Justin Fry sneaking in there that as a review for himself, he needs to continue to evolve in the new ways of recruiting. I've seen Justin Fry's all-time recruiting list. there's nothing in the old way of recruiting that helped him either. So, just saying. But thought that was pretty interesting. Coach Day, very interested in having a top 5 recruiting class. It's in his goals, and very interested in holding his assistant coaches accountable. So we'll see. I do like the fact that he has more time to get in those units, really see what those guys are doing, and make sure he's got the best guys working for him. I did read Keenan Bailey's report, and what Ryan Day has to say about Keenan Bailey. My gosh. We've always known that Keenan Bailey was Ryan's guy, right? He was Ryan's, I don't know how to word it to not sound, he's Ryan's guy. And boy, is he ever. I mean, it's just a glowing review of Keenan Bailey. So let's hope that dude learns how to coach tight ends really good, because right now, still looking like a wart of the team, and we just need them to continue to improve. They're behind everybody. They were behind everybody last Saturday in the Western Michigan game. They weren't much better in the Akron game, and they need to continue to evolve for sure. And hopefully Jelani continues to evolve. Now, Dylan Raiola for Nebraska started that game against Colorado. Nico Biamaliaba for Tennessee started against NC State. And we had a third young gun start this week as DJ Lagway started for Florida. Graham Mertz, their starting quarterback, was in the concussion protocol. Now, DJ Lagway, obviously we talked a ton about Florida because of their coach, Billy Napier, with 2 consecutive losing seasons, about to get himself a 3rd consecutive losing season. Had a huge win on the recruiting trail in DJ Lagway, the best quarterback in the country. He gets him to go to Florida. Now, here's this kid at Florida. You start him. He comes out and he blew away Nico, and he blew away Raiola. He had weaker competition. He played Sanford, but he set the all-time yardage in a single game record for the University of Florida with 438 yards. His adjusted completion percentage was something like 80%, and he threw for like 13.3 yards per attempt. So he was throwing down the field. He was completing at a high level, ton of yards. Looked great. Absolutely great in his first ever start. He's big. He's mobile. There is, if you're a coach, right, with the transfer portal, there's this new element. If you're a coach kind of on the hot seat, you are a little more scared to get rid of that coach if there are a couple really good players tied to that coach. And it's pretty clear that he got DJ Lagway, a guy that, let's be honest, his talent is above that of Florida at this point. When's the last time Florida got a number 1 quarterback? And Billy Napier, that's his guy. So Billy's got a little leverage with this dude if he can show everybody just how darn good he is. Now, he showed him in game 1. What do you do in game 2? Well, what do we know is going to happen this season for Florida? We know they're not going to make it to the playoffs. We know they're not going to play for the SEC championship. They're not near good enough, and they know that too. So build some goodwill with the fans, play the kid they want to see. He's clearly ready. It's not going to hurt his development. Get some good grace. Show them that they need you and they need DJ to turn this around. What's he going to do next week? Who's he going to start? He's going to start Graham Mertz. This guy, every single decision, every fork in the road, he goes the wrong direction. I almost feel bad for him at this point. I really do. I don't really. Listen to my guy Marcus the other day. I'm sorry. Let me set this up better, Chuck. Last week, Marcus lost to NIU. The week before, he beat Texas A&M. This is his press conference before the Texas A&M game. Have a listen to Marcus Freeman, head coach of Notre Dame.
12 guaranteed opportunities. So it isn't like you prepare a certain way for week 1 because it's Texas A&M and you don't prepare the next week for, I don't even know who we play next week. I'll figure it out.
You don't know who you play next week. It's week 2. I knew who they played next week, that week. I'm not even a Notre Dame guy. This guy is in so over his head. He's in so over his head. What you just saw there in last week, it just shows you all you need to know about him. He's not ready for this. He is spinning. He is absolutely spinning his wheels. We've seen the beginning of the end. The honeymoon is over. Notre Dame fans are salty. You know that crazy Notre Dame fan? I've played him a couple times on here. I think his name's like John Riley or something. He's a nut job. Totally nuts. Yells and screams. Pretty comical to listen to in small bits. His view after his YouTube video after that Notre Dame game had something like 35,000 views, like immediately after, because everybody wanted to see this dude have a total meltdown. Now, I haven't checked in and seen if he did. I'll check that later. Maybe I'll splice a clip in. But yeah, Marcus in over his head. Check out our guy, Quincy Porter, wide receiver in the class of 2025, the headliner wide receiver of the class. He and Bergen Cathlin came in to play Massillon on Friday. So they come in to play Massillon. For starters, our guy has a big 56-yard touchdown in the first quarter. Hit the double move on a 3-star wide receiver, so not some scrub. And he smoked him by about 10 yards. But I hadn't heard Quincy Porter speak yet in an interview. They caught up with him after the game. He gave them a couple of minutes to talk to him. Have a listen to Quincy Porter.
Football and kind of handling the media side of things.
I would say my first priority would be the team that I'm on right now. Sure. So I focused on that, and that everything else is after that. That's next. But my number one priority is my team right now.
You got a couple teammates with OSU offers. Yeah. Are you leaning on them a little bit, letting them know?
Yeah, and they're good too. So they're offered by them for a reason. They're good.
Anybody else in the 25 class who's maybe not committed to Ohio State that you're still working on? You're still trying to just recruit yourself to get to Columbus?
I don't know. I really know that. Yeah. Still think about it, but yeah.
Are you going to early enroll you at all in December?
Yeah, already have most of the stuff handled for them. So.
I don't know how they find these 18-year-olds that talk like they're 27 years old. I don't know how they find these 18-year-olds that sound like they are 27. 10 years more mature than I was at that age, that's for sure. It's impressive as hell. And Quincy Porter, clearly another one, well-spoken, looks him in the eye, speaks up, stands up straight, speaks loud. It's just amazing. It's just amazing. I'm just kind of finishing up with my 3 sons at 24, 19, and 17, watching them come through my house with teenage boys for the last however the hell long years, right? None of them act like Ohio State recruits. These kids are all so grown up. It's wild. It's just wild to see. It's impressive, man. They run an impressive crew in Columbus, to be commended for sure. Quincy Porter, another one. That kid's great. All right, let's end it off with a couple of your comments today, and then tomorrow we turn the page on to week 3. The slate doesn't look so hot, but you know what they say. Usually weeks like that, we get a chaotic one. Only I've been tracking that for like the last 3 years, and that really hasn't played out, though we say it every time. Let's hope so, because we got no Buckeyes to keep us entertained. And my buddy Eric from Kokomo says, Jack Sawyer looks like he's turned into a monster as of late. Started during the Mizzou game. He scares me. Couldn't agree more. Jack looks fantastic. And a couple of our enemies, and this is what I've been telling you guys, the Oregon fans and the USC fans, this is the difference. And I'm not cherry picking. One comment on this video from each. Now, here's the Oregon fan. OSP, the OG, the Oregon fan. We're struggling big time, Chuck, but people got to wait. We're missing 2 O-linemen and have a walk-on at center. Bedford is almost back, and then Poncho will be back at center. I was at the Boise game, and our O-line is in deep trouble if that doesn't fix it. I definitely favor the Buckeyes by 6.5 right now at Austin if I had to, but still got some borrowed time to maybe fix this. I hope. Good show as always, Juxta. Thank you, OG. Here is the representation from the USC fan base. USC has actually played a better schedule the first 2 games and has an LSU win. I think Ohio plays USC in the Big Ten championship. That's the difference. USC, listen, bud, you guys are your own special kind of jackass, okay? You don't need to be the Michigan kind of jackass. It's Ohio State, okay? Be yourself, Ohio State. And that'll do me for. Talk to you guys tomorrow. Have a good one. Chuck on Bucks out.
On both sides of the ball. He's the best player, not only on the field, but probably the best non-quarterback in the sport. What happens if Travis Hunter goes off? That's why I can't get down with the 7.5. Shadeur Sanders, even when he was sacked 7 times, went off and still beat Nebraska last year. At times, you just have to say, like, the elite talent is going to win out. I like Colorado in an outright win. I like Colorado 34-31 in an absolute classic in Lincoln.
How can you embarrass yourself like that?